Hey Float Magic fans, it's Shawnee coming to you here from Float Magic. I wanted to discuss some of our unique services that we have here. One of the most exciting services that's coming up is our salt cave. Very excited to get that into play. It's a very relaxing, enjoyable experience. It's often referred to as halotherapy, which is the use of salt in your therapy. Halo is the salt component of that. So there's different types of halotherapy. There's active halotherapy and there's passive halotherapy. And we're going to have both in our salt cave. So imagine walking into a space that is just one big salt lamp. It's going to have that beautiful Himalayan salt glow, that pinkish orangish glow. We're going to have salt blocks on the wall. We're going to have them on 3 of the walls. And then we're going to have salt on the floor. And then there's also going to be what's called a halo generator. And what that generator does is it breaks up the salt, the mineral salt, the Himalayan salts, and puts those particles into the air. They're very small particles. They're less than 1 micron size particles. So it's perfectly safe to breathe those into our body. Why would that be of any benefit at all? Why would people even seek after halotherapy or a salt cave? Well, the history on it is pretty long. I mean, back in the 1800s, I believe it was like about 1840s, there was a Polish physician that realized that individuals, miners that worked in the salt caves had much fewer ailments in the way of lung and respiratory disease than other mine workers. That makes a lot of sense, right? Like working in a mine is not the most beneficial thing for our respiratory system. However, working in a salt mine didn't produce any of those negative effects. In fact, if anything, they showed a much better, less of a disease risk for those types of respiratory and lung disorders. So that kind of prompted a little bit of look and study into that. It is an alternative medicine. There's, which is much in the way of a lot of alternative medicine. There's not extensive amounts of studies. There's not a whole lot of clinical trials. However, there is a growing popularity across the world and demand for these types of services in communities. So we're super excited that we're going to be able to provide this for Twin Falls community. So back to that active and passive halotherapy process. So the active is considered that halo generator that puts those particles into the air. So people will breathe those in, perfectly safe for our bodies. And it helps reduce the mucus within our lungs and our respiratory system, much like taking saline solution when you have a congested nose. It loosens up that so your body can process it easier. And so individuals that have disease processes such as COPD, cardiopulmonary disorder, they have obstructive disorders, any type of cystic fibrosis. They've actually shown that with cystic fibrosis, which is very difficult to break up that mucus for those individuals and clients, general asthma and allergies can see great benefit. I had an individual in here looking we're redoing our saunas, and he had made mention that his daughter suffers from severe asthma. And she goes to a salt cave quite often and finds a great amount of relief in that process. So it's also a very relaxing atmosphere. There's not much that you have to do other than come in and sit. You can put your feet in that salt. You can actively take up some of that salt. You can draw pictures in the sand if you want. You can pretend you're on a beach since they're so far away from us here, and just enjoy being in that environment. The lit up walls is kind of the passive salt, as is the salt on the floor. So that those let off ions into the atmosphere, those negative ions that really balance out our energy process. So people find it extremely relaxing to be in that space. One thing that we're excited about when it comes to the salt cave is the therapies we have here take a little bit of, there's some barriers you have to work through to be willing to jump into a float tank where there's no light or no sound and you're in the dark alone with your thoughts, right? And there's a little bit of effort that people have to exude sitting in a sauna at high temps or dipping themselves into a cold plunge at opposite low temps. The beautiful part about having a salt cave is there's not many barriers to it. There's not many contraindications. In fact, I'm not aware of many contraindications unless you have severe breathing disorders, but it helps with most of those breathing disorders. And you can just come in and sit. It's for all ages. We probably won't allow the very, very young in that space just because we are trying to maintain that relaxation atmosphere for our space. So people who are coming in to take a break from the young ones can absolutely enjoy that. But all ages can enjoy that type of an atmosphere. We'll have zero gravity chairs that are in there, so you can just kick back and relax. It's really going to be exciting therapy that we're adding. Alongside of the respiratory benefits, a lot of people have reported feeling that serenity, that anxiety reduction, because of that calming effect of those negative ions from the salt blocks and the salt that you're breathing in. Also, another system that benefits is our skin system. Our skin can, if you have psoriasis or any type of skin disorders, or maybe you have wounds that are, they say those salt in the wounds, it hurts, but it actually speeds up the recovery process. So salt can be very, very beneficial for our skin system. And so that we encourage those clients who are looking for some of that relief to consider our salt cave as well. Through the process, like I said, we're going to be shut down this next week in building that, but we should be up and running by mid to late August. If it's sooner than that, we'll be sure to let everybody know. But this will be a long-time benefit for this community, and we're very, very excited to get it into play. So that construction, like I said, will happen starting July 11th, and we'll be we'll be posting videos about that process. So keep in tune to watch about those. So we're excited to add that salty benefit to the rest of what we have going on here. All right, and another unique service that we have here that is not readily accessible is our NovoTHOR. How is that machine so different from other machines in town that deliver red light, or maybe some of those panels that have the LEDs that claim to deliver the near infrared and the red light? Our NovoTHOR is actually one of the best delivery systems on the market for photobiomodulation therapy. And that is because our bed uses laser diodes to deliver that light. A lot of clinicians will use the handheld photobiomodulation devices to help individuals recover from acute injuries, like maybe they have a torn ligament in their knee, or maybe it's a torn meniscus, or maybe they're having rotator cuff issues in their shoulder and they don't want to go down the route of surgery yet, so they'll start doing some PBM therapy or photobiomodulation therapy. So the handheld devices have been pretty common and well used across the board with a lot of different clinicians. However, the bed process is fairly new in concept because it delivers that system to your entire body. And we feel so beneficial that we have the only NovoTHOR available for public use in all of the surrounding 4 states, in all of Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, and Montana. And the reason it was so important for me to get the NovoTHOR was because of those laser diode delivery. I knew that that every time you use that bed, you would be getting the exact same dose. Because those laser diodes are so fine-tuned to deliver that exact light wave of the red light and the near infrared light every single time. Dosing is super important, and that's what sets the NovoTHOR ahead of any of the other devices. And it's a lot different than just red light therapy. I know we do have access. Red light therapy has some wonderful benefits. A lot of that is a superficial benefit. It benefits the skin, it benefits the surface of our body. So wound healing, great for wrinkles, collagen production, all of that is wonderful with a red light, which is what our bed delivers. But the added benefit that we have with the near infrared is it goes that inch and a half a little deeper into our bodies. And that vibration, that light wave that goes into our bodies, that frequency is actually activating the mitochondria of our cell. The mitochondria is considered the powerhouse of our cells. It's what moves ATP, which is our energy molecules, through our bodies. And as we age, those mitochondria get a little tired, they get a little wore out, and they don't operate at the same level that they did when we were in our teens and our 20s. And so by the time we're getting into midlife or older, we really start feeling those ill effects of that buildup of oxidative stress in our body. And what oxidative stress is essentially the ATP built up in our body that's unused. And so that starts to cause problems, that starts to cause joint issues, that starts to cause that's what's the contributing factor to macular degeneration. That's why it's harder for us to move. It's harder. That's why when we work out and we get stiff, that lactic acid buildup isn't being moved through our bodies because our mitochondria are a little sluggish. So the beautiful part about PBM therapy and our NovoTHOR bed is it really helps activate that mitochondria in every single cell of our body. And so we're reducing that oxidative stress, which in turn reduces the inflammation that's in our body, pushes fluids and that inflammatory piece through our joints, through our muscles, gets that circulating back into our body, and you feel pretty amazing. So a lot of people ask, well, when would I use the NovoTHOR? There's lots of reasons to use it because it is cellular regeneration. It's gonna benefit so many aspects of all of us. So why I'll go personal here. Why I use it. I love the way it makes my skin feel and look. I feel like it gives me just a little bit of this brightness. It's that collagen effect of my skin, and when I really feel like it has de-aged me just a little bit. I don't have proof, but I have people ask me all the time what I'm doing in my skincare regimen, and that's a big part of it. And so I've really felt like that's benefited. I've seen hair growth. So it's known that PBM will make hair grow. They actually make helmets with the red light and the near infrared light that help your hair grow. And so hair growth is a big factor in that. Testosterone increase. And women, that's okay for us too, because testosterone is a vital component of energy and allowing us to do things with our muscles and our bodies that require exertion. A lot of people report back that they see an intense benefit at the gym when they NovoTHOR. So primarily it's athletes that have this bed for their private use. And why is because it's such an intense recovery tool. It's designed to push that inflammation through your body, work that ATP through, activate those cells so that recovery just happens lightning fast. And so athletes, runners, people who do marathon runners, sprinters, a lot of basketball teams, football teams have this unit, this specific NovoTHOR unit, because they want to utilize that recovery aspect of it. Another thing that it's great for is concussions. So that concussions there's a recovery time. It's time. When you get a concussion, you've got to be on that mind rest, right? There's that cognitive rest is such an important piece of helping your mind recover. And there's the headache factor. Well, we've had individuals come in here with their concussions and they see a half to a third of the recovery time, and feeling so much better, because that is just generating the activation of those cells to really do that repair. No matter what cell is in your body, your neural cells, your muscle cells, your stem cells, they're all being activated to work for the betterment of your good. We have a lot of individuals who choose to use it that are suffering from autoimmune disorders, especially the inflammatory disorders. So those, they see great benefit in pushing that inflammation through their body as well. There are some contraindications for our NovoTHOR. If you happen to have seizure issues, because they're laser diodes, some people will notice that it causes them some discomfort with their eyes. We do provide eye covers. It's actually not necessary to cover your eyes when you're using the NovoTHOR. However, some people find it a lot more comfortable to cover them. I choose not to. I want to help and stave off any of that MD that might run through these genetics in this body of mine. And so I leave those goggles off when I use the NovoTHOR, but we do provide them in case you need them for comfort. Another contraindication of using our bed is if you are pregnant. We ask that you don't use that bed because those lights can get to that fetus, and there's not much study on what that light does to a fetus. So if you're expecting, there's other services that you can use, our flotation therapy, our salt cave. However, we ask that you stay away from our NovoTHOR bed until you've delivered that sweet baby. And then you can use it for all of that recovery that your body is going to be going through, and that skin recovery and those wound healing. And then the last contraindication that I want to mention is any type of lesions, cancer lesions that are present and known. The fascinating thing about PBM therapy is it can diminish cancer, but it can also make it grow because we're activating cells. We want to be very careful as to what we're activating. And so it's a good idea to talk to your doctor if you're under any of those contraindication factors, just to make sure that that's not going to inhibit anything that you're working on with your medical provider or any issues that you have that you're concerned with. But other than that, it is a very safe machine. You can use it daily. 12 minutes is all that is needed for that wonderful benefit. That's why it's such a popular service. Unlike our hour float or our, 45-minute saunas, you can hop in the NovoTHOR and 15 minutes later, you're hopping out and man, you just feel like you can go out and conquer the world. So it's those appointment times are half-hour slots, so we can allow for a little cool down between. But when we set that bed at 15 minutes, but 12 minutes is all you need. You can use it daily. I've used it daily, months at a time, just as experiments. I love it. I feel fascinated. I just am fascinated about how amazing I feel when I've used it every single day. That's a great benefit of being the owner of Float Magic. I get access to that. So, in fact, some people tease me that I really put this place into effect just so I could have everything at my disposal. And maybe there's a little truth to that. But anyway, I really am happy I get to share it with my community. So, but yeah, daily is a perfectly fine practice for that bed. People do ask how often. How often should they use it? And that really depends on what you're working on. If there's something that you're trying to address that's an acute issue, let's say that you did just have a concussion, or maybe you were in a car accident and you have both a concussion and some skin healing that you need to. We have unlimited packages that allow for you to come in. It gives you, what it does is it's pretty much the cost of 8 passes at a package price, which is deeply discounted. But however, if you come and use those, you'll get those 8 credits on your account, and you can come use it as often as you feel necessary, whether that's daily. We don't recommend you use it more than once a day, so it couldn't be like day and night. But daily, or maybe it's 3 times a week. Maybe it's Monday through Friday you're using it. So it really just depends on what it is you're addressing. Most of our memberships allow for 1 NovoTHOR session a week. And a lot of our members utilize that. So they'll come here weekly and use that and just count it as their little boost for their week, that little moment that they get some self-care. A lot of people will use our NovoTHOR alongside the IR sauna, which is another beautiful benefit, because so you have near infrared in the NovoTHOR, but you have far and mid infrared in our IR sauna. That's the IR frequency that are used in those. And so when you use both congruently and together, you're getting full spectrum IR in that visit. So that's also shown to be a great benefit for a lot of our clientele. And a lot of our sauna members will do the sauna membership and then add on that NovoTHOR. So anyway, it's just a little insight to why PBM therapy is something that I wanted to include here at Float Magic. When I learned about it, I was just fascinated at the studies. I actually listened to a scientist who was speaking from the Rockefeller Neuroscience Institute, just talking about his studies with combat veterans and TBIs and PTSD, and the way of flotation therapy and his NovoTHOR bed photobiomodulation therapy. So I latched right on to that information and was fascinated by the studies coming out. There's unlike halotherapy and most alternative regimens, flotation therapy and photobiomodulation therapy have a lot of science that's coming out to support all that those do. And I really like to deep dive into that information, give you a little snippet of that science today. So anyway, I hope that if you've been questioning it, wondering if what the benefits can be for you, I hope that's answered a little bit of your questions, and you'll come in and check it out and give yourself some of that self-care. And remember, it's perfectly fine to stay salty.